around Halloween, 1970, near or in Kings Park West development area, and or along or on Guinea Road in Burke, Virginia, 2 incidents of vandalism occurred. A 5'8", 175-pound, 20-year-old was carrying an axe, and he was dressed as a bunny rabbit. Quote-unquote midnight, I'll get to my pet peeve about that, October 18th or 19th, you already figured out why I have a problem, but let's move on, in the 5400 block of Guinea Road in Burke, Virginia. And or it was 5400 Guinea Road. We'll get to that again. Sometime after the ending of an Air Force Navy football game they had come from, Robert Bennett was with his fiancée, and they were in the front seat of their car with the motor still running as they were parking it, quote, in a field just off the side of the road that was across the street from his uncle's house that they were visiting. As they parked the car, presumably nose first into the field or parked it to the side, whichever you were going to look up the interpretation of, they noticed someone behind them or something behind them in the rear window. Not rear view mirror, rear window is what they said, which means they turned their heads. Or did they? And then the front right passenger window was suddenly smashed in by a hatchet thrown through it that landed on the car's floorboards. From behind, probably coming around from the right side, throwing it through. We'll get to the descriptions in a minute. As they were driving away, the attacker said, "You're on private property. I have your tag number." She said he was wearing a white conical hat from her point of view. He said he wore a white suit and had long bunny ears, presumably sticking straight up. So she was seeing him from the side. So he would have been from the side from her perspective looking this way, and he would have seen him straight on this way yelling at them, presumably looking towards the car. Did he hit reverse really quickly because they nosed in, and as he backed up, he could see it at one angle and she could only see it at an angle, so she perceived pointed ears? There's a reason I'm assuming it really was a bunny suit. Number one, it's around Halloween. Number two, people would wear Halloween outfits around the time of Halloween a lot more often than you might think before this and many other incidents where people decided dressing up in a bunny costume and it's not Halloween is a good way to get hurt. Don't do that. Or any other scary thing. Don't scare people around Halloween time. Only do it on Halloween. And then later, don't do it at all. Second incident, this is again the 19th or 18th at midnight. Because it picks either of them, yeah, I'll do the pet peeve. Stop saying midnight. Say 12:01 and it's the 19th. I don't care if it's wrong. Put in 12:01 and then in parentheses, midnight, but it was on the 19th. The word midnight is an ambiguous time. It's not the beginning. It's the beginning of one day and the end of the other. And unless you specify it's a minute before or a minute after, it's not a date. It's one of those things that really pisses people off who have to do databases. And police reports. The police officer is supposed to state October 18th/19th midnight or October 18th/midnight 19th. It means it's literally at midnight. It almost never is, but you're supposed to say that because someone's going to say in court, well, was it which day was it? Because you're saying it's the 19th. It could have been the 20th or the 18th because you're not specifying which it was. Because you literally end up with 3 days that could be called midnight the 19th. Yeah. That's actually gotten someone out of going to jail because the police officer couldn't remember. Being wrong by up to 3 days, you're not going to get a conviction. Yes, this is an actual case. But anyway, it was a bunny outfit most likely. Let's go with the assumption. On the 29th of October at 10:30 p.m. or around 10:30 p.m., again, I won't do the pet peeve, at 5307 Guinea Road, okay, now we actually have an address, Burke, Virginia, in what was Kings Park West area. The description is 5 foot 8 inch tall, 175 pound, 20-year-old approximately man chopping a porch roof support post of an unfinished home with a long-handled axe instead of a hatchet. Oh, and by the way, he was dressed up in a gray, black, and white bunny costume. And the witness we have was the security guard who was assigned to keep this kind of shit from happening. It's vandalism at this point. And said in not so many words, if you come any closer, I'll A, chop your head off, B, bash your head in, C, some other wording that was used. This guy changed the story a lot. But he said the security guard was trespassing. Security guard went back to get his gun because he wasn't wearing it at the time, which makes some sense for the 1970s in this area. And the guy ran away. These are the least contested versions of the story. There are 56 or more by now versions of the story, deliberately changing details so that, no, that was the other incident, so there can be more incidents so that you can have something to talk about as a spook story around the fire. Where are we getting this from? I don't have a proper link because Blogspot. No, actually, it's fairfaxcounty.gov library trying to set the record straight. You're a librarian, you're an archivist, and you didn't get a perfect, clean copy of what you got. Here we go. 1971, X number of months later, on the 14th of March. Yes, I have to count them in my head. It's the third month. January, February, March. Fairfax County Police Department Criminal Investigation Bureau, CIB, Officer William L. Johnson, while he was still alive and willing to talk to somebody about this stupid story that's driven him crazy, and he's tired of hearing about it, said the following over the phone and in a written copy of that criminal report. No earlier stories or criminal incidents involving an individual dressed as a rabbit were able to be found at the time when he did the investigation right after this happened. He fell in his lap and he looked up every place. Now, how did he do it? This is the 70s. There wasn't any emails going back and forth for accidentally creating a record you could retrieve. So it's all from memory and from the written report. He called up every police department in the area and said, I know it's Halloween when this happened, but do you have reports of criminal activity with somebody wearing specifically a bunny rabbit outfit or wearing a conical hat like from a movie about, the Knights of the Round Table? For a lady to wear. Because that's the description I would have used. Because I was born during a time where that was the kind of description I would have given. Similar timing. I'm just not as old. Nobody said they heard anything about it. And this is the kind of thing that everybody would remember. Yeah, we had 2 incidents or something like that. Blah, blah, blah. They didn't check any records because people don't make records of this. This is some goofball around Halloween, running around, doing mischief, throwing eggs, and breaking windows. This is called vandalism or delinquency or whatever you want to call it. Next. The report number. We have this. You can make a Freedom of Information Act request to a police department that's tired of hearing about this, that has said they will only give you a redacted one, and they only gave it out once because he requested it because he's a former cop. Report number 858 dash or hyphen, you got to know which one. Trust me on this when you deal with bureaucrats. 748. 858-748, 1971, March 14th is when it was filed. You'd have to look it up with that data. Here we go. 1,500 home Kings Park West project at the time. There are several places and roads now called Kings Park West. It's obviously somebody who was running the project who got this phone call, but they're saying it was a person associated with or a resident. Got a phone call from someone saying, I am the Axe Man. Pretty definitively the guy. Or at least someone claiming. You've been messing up my property. Dumping tree stumps, dumping limbs, dumping brush, and other things, garbage, on the property. You can make everything right by meeting me tonight and talking about the situation. It's a person in their 20s. It's probably the son of a property owner in the area who felt entitlement to be able to go off and act on behalf of the family owner, the family homeowner. Or it's this person impersonating it, or it's a sociopath, or whatever you want to bring up. Somebody was angry about fly tipping of garbage from a development project that ended up on his hunk of dirt and decided to go after the security guard at one of the locations while whacking away with an axe. He said he hit it 6 times with the axe before running off after threatening to, quote, bash his head in or cut off his head, depending on which story you're reading. Police report includes several copies of the same thing. So people couldn't get their story straight. They kept embellishing it. It wasn't worth it. Not enough damage to make a difference. It had to be a certain minimum amount. They dropped the case. And then the person contacts, presumably the person running the whole show, because it was done when they were visiting the security guard, but it was a person associated or a resident. Now, the heavily redacted, most likely, thing was in possession of, quote, Fairfax County Library by a specific person who's named, which I'm not naming. And they didn't post it. That was 2003. Maybe they felt it was a violation. Maybe they were told, please don't post this. If you lived in the area and lived at exactly 5307 Guinea Road, Burke, Virginia, and if you're watching, and some knucklehead like me told everybody the exact address for the second incident, which was a building that had hatchet marks in the porch, it'd really suck, wouldn't it? People would come there, take pictures in front of your house, get on your lawn. So nobody wants to be listed. So why was that number listed? Well, the building isn't there anymore. It's been replaced with another one. Next, it's not in the same position. Next, the address doesn't exist because the road was moved. What about the 5400 block? Same story. Right? Or were these just guesses? Again, we have a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing here. Game of telephone where the original document wasn't posted because it gave the actual addresses. There obviously was an address. The axe went through a window across the street from this person's house who was named at the time. The other one was a building with nobody living in it, but it was at XYZ address, and it was a specific one, and we can take a picture of the axe marks, which they didn't do. You might be thinking, well, why wouldn't somebody do all that? He did. But it was tossed out over time because nothing came of it, and it was only 2 incidents. It's not 50-some-odd incidents like is listed. There's 50 incidents, but it's people retelling a combination of both stories and making 50 extra versions of it, including deliberately changing whether or not people were hurt, how many people were in the car, were they in the middle of making out? They were probably making out across the street. I mean, who knows? Other people are saying, oh, it was a make-out road. No, it's not a make-out road. It was across the street from the uncle's house. But they were in the forest. Yeah. And now we get into the Google Earth of it all. Do I really want to do that? If you want me to, I will, and I'll bust this wide open. But are the addresses falsified? Well, stating 5400 block is a way of saying I'm not giving you the accurate address, but it's a general area. That's good enough for a police report. Saying it was 5307 when you look on Google Earth and find out it was a vacant lot, that's literally falsifying documents, or they crossed out which one it was. It's 53-something-7, but they crossed that out, or it's a blank. It's not a 0. They did an asterisk over the top of it so you couldn't read the numbers. So it's not the address. It's not 5307. It's 53X7. What do we learn from this? Number 1, it's not a chronic and persistent threat. Number 2, it was somebody acting like an angry activist about a development in an area, destroying the forest, or whatever their bullshit reason was. Number 2, it was only 2 incidents. Number 3, nobody got caught, but it's pretty obvious it was the son of some landowner, and if he was under 18, they probably wouldn't have prosecuted, and they would have dropped it if he just said, I'm not going to do it again, and paid his bills. That's it. Or paid his fine, or paid his debt to society, or ran away to college after being out of school. So, why did I do this video? I was trying to find the exact addresses, and I found all this stuff that indicates strongly the police report was later altered by demand from people who were tired of this becoming a viral sensation and a urban legend where they're getting people on their front lawn taking photos. You can look up people doing this. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.